So, what comes to your mind when you think of Halloween? Probably things like people dressing up in costumes, kids going from door to door to get candy, hearing trick or treat, perhaps movies showing up on your TV that are more about witches, ghosts, and goblins, and all that stuff that has to do with Halloween, as I'll call it, because all these things really have nothing to do with the kingdom of heaven, but have everything to do with the kingdom of darkness. And I don't know about you, but for me, I'm someone who likes to know about the origins of things that I'm going to involve myself with. So, Halloween, speaking of, where has it come from? Perhaps some of you have heard of some of these things that I will share, but for those who have never heard this and you stumbled across this video, I just pulled some things from online and wrote them down, so I'm just going to share them with you and then share some of my own thoughts. Well, its history goes all the way back to a pagan and Celtic festival called Samhain. The Celts believed that the dead returned to earth on Samhain. They would wear costumes to ward off the ghosts and wear masks to outsmart these ghostly beings, so they would think they were fellow spirits. They would often wear animal skins and heads and offered the animals they killed as sacrifices in bonfires, paying homage to the dead spirits they believed were visiting them that night. They would also put out food and drink offerings outside of their doors to appease these unwelcomed spirits. The first trick-or-treaters would go door to door begging for food and money, and in exchange they would offer to pray for the souls of their neighbors' recently departed loved ones. This tradition was called souling. The early Catholic Church turned Samhain into All Hallows Eve or All Souls Day. Instead of just offering prayer, they started singing songs, telling jokes, or staging doorstep performances for their treats. Traditions like bobbing for apples began, and single women would perform tricks involving throwing apple peels or cracking eggs into a bowl in hopes that their future husband's initials would appear. And at times they would look in a mirror in a candlelit room to see, in hopes of seeing a reflection of their future beloved's face. Back then, they didn't give candy, but they gave a round pastry called a soul cake. It was made with nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, and raisins, and was stamped with a cross on top that symbolized a soul being saved from purgatory, which isn't biblical, by the way. Also, for All Hallows Eve, people began dressing as angels, saints, and devils. So that's just a few things that I found from different online sources that I put together for you, and then I just wrote some of my own thoughts that I'll share with you. It sounds like the early Catholic Church was trying to make its own version of what started out as the pagan festival of Samhain. And isn't that what a lot of churches still do to this day? Offering trunk or treat in their parking lots to kids coming dressed in costumes. Is this okay or pleasing to our Father? His word warns not to participate in the traditions of men, popular or not. I just wanted to share some scriptures, speaking of his word. Mark 7, verses 8 through 9 says, "You leave the commandment of God and hold to the tradition of men." And he said to them, "You have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to establish your tradition." Colossians 2:8 says, "See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ." Just a couple more scriptures. Matthew 15:3 says, "He answered, 'And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition?' And in that same chapter, verses 8 and 9, "This people honors me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. And there are many things that go along with Halloween that go against our Creator's commandments. Talking to the dead, seances, sacrifices of animals and humans that still do go on to this day. All sources of witchcraft, and of course participating in things of pagan origin that have nothing to do with anything that our Father has asked us to involve ourselves with. Satan is behind it all. He takes great pleasure in tricking people into following his ways, and he does so by making things seem innocent, safe, and fun. The Bible warns that he is the angel of light after all. He is all about deception, and he has the goal in mind to steal, kill, and destroy us. And he certainly doesn't want us following after the ways and commandments of our Creator, but instead will try anything to get us to involve ourselves with things that will take us farther away from our Father, and to involve ourselves with things that will displease him. So we have to ask ourselves, how much do we want to follow our Creator's instructions and ways over and above the worldly traditions that seem to be way more popular than that narrow road that the Bible speaks of? Why would we want to put ourselves in the position of the minority in a world that will clearly see how much we stick out as we choose to refrain from participating in what so many choose to do? As set-apart people of Yahweh, we are supposed to stand out, following our Messiah Yeshua, or Jesus, and his ways. We are to shine his light of truth into the darkness so that others may see his light of truth in us. And we cannot do that by becoming just like them. He tells us to let your light so shine, right? Matthew 5:14-16 says, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. It is set on a lampstand where it gives light to all in the house. Just so, your light must shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your heavenly Father." John 1:5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Don't allow the dark things of this world to overcome you. And so it's things like the subject of Halloween, other holidays and other things that, we have to ask ourselves, okay, what's more important, us going along with, just what our friends or our family are doing because it's, what the majority of people around us are involving themselves with, or maybe something that you have childhood memories with and attachments, emotional attachments there, and you remember your fun and all your costumes and everything you used to wear and all that. I mean, I myself used to, but the more I wanted to, it became increasingly important to do away with the worldly traditions of men and to do what pleases my Father more and more. It's just another one of those things that was another thing that had to go. And in my life there have been many, but that's just one of them. And perhaps, like I said at the beginning of this video, this is the first time you're hearing about any of this. You might think, oh, well, it's just innocent fun, but these things, our Father warns us about for good reason. And with that being said, I want to share this just last little part here with you. The founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, himself declared that by dressing up, either by wearing a costume or by coloring oneself in celebration of Halloween, it signifies that you allow Satan to own you. He further said that when you adapt the pagan practices, you subconsciously dedicate yourself to the devil. And he took joy in believers who take part in the Halloween tradition, saying, "I am glad that Christian parents let their children worship the devil at least one night out of the year. Welcome to Halloween." And so, with that being said, I say, decide this day whom you will follow, friends. Do you want to involve yourselves with things that bring you farther away or closer to your Creator, who loves you very much, so much that He sent His only Son to die in your place? As we remember how much He loves us, it makes it easy for us to forego the traditions of man and to want to honor Him in ways which please Him. And so we have to remember that He gives us instructions for our good and for our protection. And He doesn't want us involving ourselves with anything from the kingdom of darkness. And the devil, he has tricks and he has ways to involve you with the things of him without you even thinking that is going on. He is the master of deception, after all. But there is one who is above him, and he certainly doesn't mean to kill, steal, and destroy, but the opposite, to bring you new life. And perhaps this is your reminder, and he wanted to bring you new insight to this subject, and for it to be something that makes you want to know more about other things, just other than the topic of Halloween, but to perhaps light a new spark in you to want to more and more forego the things of the world. The world is going down that wide path of destruction, and we are to stay on that smaller, more narrow path that brings true life. So choose this day whom you will follow. Hope this was an enlightening blessing to you. So if you think that somebody needs to hear this, or you want to share this on your social media to maybe help wake others up, please feel free to do so. All right, take care. Have a good day.